thanks for coming over. I'm glad I could help you out here tonight. Sorry my hair's a little crazy. Didn't expect to be awake this late, but it's totally fine. Don't worry about it. I'm happy to be here. So, what's been going on? Is it kind of the same stuff that's been going on? They're trying times. I'm sorry that you have to go through this. I'm kind of going through things myself. Maybe it's in the air. I think that I don't know what you expected in coming over, but I don't want it to be one of those times where I sit down and very empathetically I tell you all these really cliche things. Everything will be okay. You're perfect. You're great. You're wonderful. It's not that I disagree with those things, but I think that there's a certain value in being real or in being grounded with you. And sometimes these truths are a little bit more challenging to face. Like, for me, for instance, I recognize that even though I'm going through hard things, I have to be the one to address them. It has to be, the weight is on my shoulders, so to speak. And the same is true for you in your case. I think that it's important for you to recognize that everything can be okay, but it doesn't have to be okay. It's up to you. You're the one that decides whether or not you want to walk down these roads and for how long. And it's totally okay to be patient and to have a process with things. There's no rush. And you can work through things at whatever rate you feel comfortable with. You're having a rough night, There's no worries about that. Be patient with yourself. But I don't mean to get preachy here. Hey, you know what is just fantastic? I know that you happen to like ear massages, and imagine this, I love giving ear massages. That's just like match made in heaven, isn't it? Tell me about it. So, without further ado, I would be honored if you would let me massage your ears while we continue this conversation. Okay, so I think it's amusing how life can take these twists and turns into ways that we just can't anticipate. Someone can be totally set in thinking that they know what's going to happen, they know where they're going to end up or what they're going to do next. And then every once in a while life will just take big fuzzy sledgehammer. Almost said sledgehammer, not a word. Big fuzzy sledgehammer and mess up all the plans. And sometimes it's not so fuzzy, but I don't know. I try to make life seem a little bit more innocent, maybe, than it sometimes deserves to be, because certainly there's a lot of hardship in the world, and a lot of challenging experiences, and I can't belittle that. I've been very blessed. I've had a very blessed life. But it is still amusing how, even though we know that nothing is really solid, nothing is permanent, and nothing is certain, we still get these ideas in our head that it can be, or that it's going to be, or we still think it's a possibility, even after we're continually shown. Nope. And of course, I'm not suggesting that we don't plan anything. I'm not suggesting that we don't try to coordinate our lives in the best way we can, because certainly that's ignorant to say, oh, nothing's certain, so let's make no plans. Let's live in the moment forever and pay no credence to the future or the past. It's a valid lifestyle, I guess, but not quite for me. Probably not for you. Yeah, that's what I thought. But hey, if you wanna try it out, you're welcome to. Impermanence can be very healing if you can really get into that kind of concept. It's one of the things that Buddhists really emphasize and preach or prioritize is that life is so precious. And I think that's a pretty cool part of the doctrine, just that life is so valuable. And that's one thing that I've really been not dwelling upon. I guess I've just considered a lot these days, is that life is so fragile. Just, I could be here 1 minute and there's so many things that could cause me to not be here in the next. Most of them are some sort of accident, and probably a gruesome accident if it's causing me to not be here anymore. But it's so fragile. It's crazy. Not to freak you out. Sometimes it kind of freaks me out, but then I just change my mind. Stop thinking about it. Speaking of fragile accidents, how's that for a segue? I've been learning a lot about the human body lately, and it's fascinating. I cannot even begin to express to you how interesting it is that we're so intricate, that we're so amazingly complex. I found there's a website, I think it was called Open2 Study, and the 2 is a numeral, not a word, and it's an Australian site, and they have online college courses for free that you can take. They also have accredited courses, but if you take a free course, you just get the information, but it's all you really need, as long as it's not you're pursuing a trade or something. So I did a class about the basics of the human body as a whole mechanism there, and there was so much information that they touched on in such a brief span of time. They really couldn't get into all of the nitty-gritty, so to speak, of the human body and all these organisms inside us and that help us function. But I think even at the very end of the course, he said, like, we're just skimming the surface. If you want to know more, you're gonna have to find more on your own. And I respect that, because even within our own bodies, there's so many systems that it would probably not be, it would be worthwhile to know it all, but maybe it's less practical to try to learn everything about every system. After all, that's why there's so many medical specialties. Just because a doctor wouldn't be able to know the ins and outs of every system. That's just kind of silly, isn't it? Trying to think if there's anything interesting that I could, like, some noteworthy facts that I got from the course. It starts out with just a bit of talking about chemistry. And that was kind of interesting. I'm not a very educated person, but I feel like I have the capacity to retain knowledge. So that's all that really matters. That was the problem with me being a child, is I was really good at memorization, and that would help me through tests and things, but honestly, that's not really learning. That's just cementing facts in my head. But Nowadays, I'm much more keen on learning, and I have much higher capacity for learning than I did when I was younger. But boy, was I good at memorizing and passing tests. You ever miss school? Really? I don't miss it. There's things about it that I used to kind of romanticize. Like, my life was a lot simpler when I was in school, because you're a child, you're a kid, you're an adolescent. You just go to school, do your school stuff, get home and do your school stuff, and then you're done. You do whatever you want. But as an adult, life's a lot more complicated, and there's a lot more rules and details and things that you just don't have to worry about when you're a kid. Yeah. And not to mention all the things that they don't teach you in school, like how to be an adult. I mean, there's some kind of learning curve to just figuring out how to function in daily life. At least in this culture. I'm not sure. I can't speak for every other culture, but I'm just stuck in this one. But we live pretty cushy lives here. I've been also learning, another one of the courses I'm taking online is about sustainability in a global sense. And it's talking a lot about poverty in this part of the class, and just things we can do about it, and just the extent of how bad it is. And it's really quite sad to see, or to recognize, how some people have to live. And it's not fair to disregard or invalidate my pain or your pain because it's of a different sort than these people are experiencing, but at the same time, like, their lives are hard. It really, more than anything, it makes me feel very compassionate, and it makes me want to do something positive to help contribute. And so I'm starting that. I'm looking into a few charities that I want to start to give money to, and I may pursue some volunteer work on the side. I don't really know where to begin with that, actually, but that's the point of looking into it, I guess. So even though, I don't know, I don't feel like it's useful to decide how I should feel about my life based on the lives of others. As in, I don't think that I should feel bad. I don't think, okay, I'm going to rephrase that. I don't think I should feel good because other people's lives are worse than mine. Because at the same token, I could feel the opposite way. I could feel bad that other people have lives that are better than mine. And I don't think either of those are really useful, unless they motivate positive action, but they're not necessary for that. I think each of us are so unique that really there's just no basis for comparison of our lives to other people's lives. And so I'm content with that. I'm content in just accepting, oh, this is my life, and I can do with what I want with my life. And I do. I want to make a positive impact on the world. I want to make, I don't care if I change the world, quote unquote. I don't care if I have a global impact necessarily, because that's not, I'm not saying it's unrealistic, but it's not something, I'm not upset if I don't get to that level, so to speak. I'm content to just change people on a smaller scale and be a positive difference to those around me. And I think that I do that in general. I do my best to embody this positive person and to share the sunshine of my own life with those around me. That's ultimately what I strive for, and I mean, not to talk overly highly of myself, but I think I do a decent job of it. I have a handle on how to positively interface with my world, and I enjoy sharing that with people. I enjoy being in people's lives, and they enjoy having me, so, the more the merrier. But I gotta start kind of rebuilding my life, I guess, because things changed really rapidly, and it's a little off-putting, but I'm making positive changes from it, and I've actually had a lot of really positive ramifications that have come out of these negative shifts, and I can only hope that you experience the same as you process your challenges. Ultimately, I think that the thing that probably interests me the most in having gone through all these emotions and all this processing and things is that everything seemed so final during when I was experiencing it, and everything seemed kind of like, to borrow a phrase, the end of the world. And I'm not belittling the pain that I went through or the experience at all, because it was genuine and it was valid. But just from this more balanced point that I've reached now, I can look back at all of that, and they were all extremes. It was like if you imagine a half pipe. I continued to go from one end, which it started out very positive. I was in, like, if this is the middle, it started out when this happened, and I felt very positive, and I was very excited and happy and good with it. And then I went back down, and then it switched sides, and I went to the opposite, the negative side, and I was on the extreme there. And it kind of just went back and forth with these for a little bit. But then as time goes on, you start going less and less high until you settle into the bottom here, and you reach this balanced state. And then you can look back at all of it and say, wow, what the hell was I thinking? Because you're no longer you're not feeling so intense on either side of the spectrum. And so maybe you're just on the high ends of the half pipe. But fortunately for both of us, there's gravity, and you do come back down, and you will eventually settle at the bottom, and you'll reach a new point of stillness, so to speak. Once you get there, then you'll know where you need to go next. I think you have that right. I think it's important. It is important to experience your emotions, to express them, and to live through them. Because if you don't, they're just going to be bottled up inside of you. And I'm not saying that you should go out onto the street and scream your face off because you're upset about something. Because maybe there's a time and a place for intense emotional expression. But in general, I do believe wholeheartedly that it is important to go through the emotions, not to reject them, not to think that they're wrong, not to invalidate them, not to think that they're unnecessary or that you shouldn't be them or that you're better than them. People have a lot of ways and a lot of justifications for pushing away what they're feeling and what they're experiencing. But I think if you're living it, if it's in you, then it's there for a reason, and you need to figure that out. So I commend you. I applaud you for being willing to share your emotions with me and to feel them. That's very admirable. So it's a necessary part of working through them in that sense. And to be honest with you, I'm not that worried about you. You've got a good head on your shoulders, and you're gonna come out of this. Trust me, if I came out of some of those things that I was feeling, you're gonna come out of this. I am shocked at how deep I got, which is kind of the opposite of the half pipe metaphor, but I think you understand what I mean. I went in deep, but I came out of it, and so are you. So, just be patient with yourself. You've got time. I've got time. We're not going anywhere. And you know that you can always come over here when you need someone to listen to you. Or not someone to listen to, but listen to you, or to chat with you, or to just be there for you. I've done this for many people, and I'm more than happy to do it for you. How are these ears feeling? If I officially squeezed the life out of them, or am I just squeezing the pain out? It's hard to tell sometimes. Guess you could say that. You have some nice ears, though. Massaged many an ear, but not all ears are created equally. Sorry, I told you I wouldn't say cliche things, didn't I? I'm glad that you're willing to accept help, too. Because some people, myself included, I've been this way before, where some people just try to do everything on their own, and they won't accept help, and they won't let anyone in order to help them cross the bridge to Wellville. And it's very mature. It takes maturity to open up to people and to be vulnerable. And that vulnerability will serve you. That vulnerability and opening up is a necessary process if you really want to get anywhere in relationships with other people. So, super happy that you're on the same book, on the same page as me in that regard. Okay. I don't mean to rush you, but I do have to work in the morning. So if you're okay with this, let's put this conversation on pause for a little bit, and we can get back to it at a different time. Because I would enjoy going to sleep, and you're looking a little tired, so maybe you could get some rest too. You deserve some rest. It's been a long day for you, I'm sure. So, We can part our separate ways. If you feel comfortable going home, you can go home. If not, I'll throw some, either you can get a sleeping bag, or I'll throw like a blanket and a pillow on the couch, you know, make it work. Sound good? Alrighty, let's figure this out.